Look at these two blurred images. Can you recognize them? Most should be able to recognize the one on the left as the Rocket League logo. For the people that thought it was Finland, I'm concerned because Rocket League sold more copies than Finland has humans. However, the other image is a lot harder to recognize for many, as it is the logo of the lesser-known prequel to Rocket League, Supersonic Acrobatic rocket-powered battle cars. While this title is definitely a mouthful, at least it's not as bad as this. This game is the prequel to Rocket League, and it definitely shows in how it plays. From the buggy ball cam to the pinball-like physics to the non-standard maps, it was clear that while the game had potential, it certainly wasn't perfect. But have you ever wondered how the idea came to be in the first place? What was happening in the community before Rocket League, if there even was one? Can you still buy and play it today? All these questions and more will be answered as we dive into the complete history of SARP. In order to get a brief idea of the development process of SARP, we must fast backward to 2007. Dave Hagewood and his small group at Psyonix had just got off work with Unreal Tournament 2004, doing contract work implementing vehicles to the game. Because of the group's substantial knowledge in Unreal Engine 3, an innovative new engine that hadn't been out for that long at all, being used to adding vehicles into games using Unreal Engine, it was just meant to be. They had to make a vehicle-based game. Well, at the time, they weren't quite sure what they wanted to do. They did know that it had to involve acrobatic battle cars. See, they had these three words already figured out, and they didn't even know it. The original title was called Crash Course, and it looked, well, interesting. I wouldn't really say good, but certainly interesting.
Rocco's editor Ryan here. While editing, and I was looking at the Crash Course trailer, can we just admire how much Gerard is getting smacked up here? Like, that's one. That's two. And that's three. Like, in a row. Like, why you gotta smack him up like that? Jesus Christ, man.
Eventually, they... Dude, I can't say this word. Eventually, they decided to, quote, throw a ball in there one day, and literally became addicted to what they had created right after they had proposed the previous idea to Microsoft and had the project already greenlit for release as... I'm keeping this line. So, instead of looking like absolute clowns in front of Microsoft, they ditched them and went over to the PS3 for a release of Carball and Carball only. Now, since this was no longer a Crash Course, they also needed a better name. Yeah, I said better. This isn't it. So apparently the name was partially inspired from a bit of Conan O'Brien's talk show named Embryonic
Rockabilly Polka-Dotted Fighter Pilots.
And I don't really understand how that got past everyone who was working on the name. Like, how do you not think, oh, we can't market this before you finalize the title? But nevertheless, they really thought this title would make the sales skyrocket, and they announced SARP on the 8th of August in 2008. As you could probably expect from a company with no promotion and an extremely long name with a premise that is generally a bit of a hard sell, nobody cared. Yeah, needless to say, this wasn't a hit among the PlayStation Network when it was announced. It was car soccer, it was set to release in early fall, and that's all we knew about it. On September 8th, it was announced to use Unreal Engine 3, whoop-de-doo, and on October 3rd, there was a trailer on Game Reactor, a website you've never heard of before, but for some reason had a trailer on it that wasn't featured anywhere else except for that website and that website only, which means barely anyone has seen it. Seriously, I checked and I can't find another website that uses this video, and while it reuses some shots, this trailer is completely unique to a website nobody cares about. Also, nice music choice. On October 9th, SARP was released to the public, and it didn't do the best. Only a couple thousand had the game at and shortly after launch, and it had sort of a slow growth. It took a full 2 years to get the money Psyonix had spent on the game back from purchases, and that wasn't exactly the best case scenario. But it was at a start, and they knew they had something special, they just had to perfect it. They also probably didn't want to be known for Monster Mash, Grave Danger, because, well, it was garbage. That was the development history of Supersonic Acrobatic. I'm not saying the full title. And considering it was a game that didn't do very well sales-wise or popularity-wise, it had a very good documentation of the process. The game was originally sold at $15, and with price cuts down the line, it eventually ended up at today's price of a crisp $2.99, plus tax. Opening up the game, we see a profile selection, but not a PlayStation profile selection. No, that would make too much sense. Instead, there's an in-game profile system, which means that each PlayStation profile can have up to, in brackets, check how many profiles. So yeah, it's on the screen. That many. Wow. This feature is completely useless, but we'll give it a pass. The selection in the menu system is small, and it's to the left, which doesn't really make sense because there's nothing that it's showcasing except the boring, off-blue cyan looking background. Speaking of which, let's talk about the background. Wasteland? Out of every map you could choose, you choose the blandest map of them all, where the only special feature is that you can bump around these tumbleweeds on the map and the sides are slightly tilted. You could have picked Urban, the default map, where all of the competitive play happens. Yes, I said competitive play. We'll talk about that later. I mean, you could have done Pirate Ship. That wasn't a map upon release. I mean, you could have done Utopia. You could have done anything better than the boring Desert Land! Okay. Next bad thing. The split screen option. Now, answer me this question. If you want to play by yourself, just against bots, in Rocket League, which I don't really know why you would want to, but if you would like to do something kind of that weird, yeah, okay, what do? You go to the Expedition mode, right? Now, what do you do in SARP? You go to the split screen mode. Please explain why they couldn't have just named this Expedition or Offline or Local Play or Play Against the Worst AI of all time. We'll talk about the AI later. But even though all this exists, it's not ungodly terrible. For one, there's this little octane at the right that gives you a description of what you're hovering over, which means that battle cars talking in full English are a thing. The car is smaller than a mouse in the menu, which, if we think optimistically, means it's cute, I guess? We'll name it Bob. For two, I mean, the menu color is coordinated to the colors of the logo. Yeah, this menu isn't good. There's a lot of smaller things wrong with it that I could complain about, but do you really care? So, we'll move on, because, believe it or not, while they're few and far between, there are still some good features to this game. I'll let my friend Ryan voice part of this, as I don't really want to play through the entire game, but he did, way back in January of 2017, and multiple times since, so he's probably way more qualified than me anyways.
Clicking New Game, we are put into a selection of Continue to Game or Osteoporosis. We continue to game and are then put with the daunting selection of minigames, tournaments, or 3 different forms of osteoporosis with varying difficulty. Bob is also here to tell you what each of these modes mean if you're too stupid to understand what minigames are, which apparently aren't games inside of games, they're great ways to learn the game.
You mean your dictionary.com was wrong this whole time?
Okay, so assuming we don't want osteoporosis, we're going to play the minigames. There's 20 minigames in total, separated in 5 groups of 4 based on vehicle. For example, the first 4 minigames are using the Zippy car, and if you beat all the minigames, you then unlock said Zippy car. I did some research and realized these minigames aren't documented that well, so I decided to rank all the minigames based on how fun they were. The first minigame is titled Scavenger, and for the first minigame you ever play in SARP, and it doesn't even involve a ball, you just collect these boost canisters. We'll call them peanuts. This one sucks, it's boring, and because the power slide physics are broken, it's really hard to control. Speaking of which, the power slide physics. These physics are weird. When you're just accelerating normally in Power Slide, it feels sharp, it feels responsive, it feels nice. Now our good friend Osteoporosis hid the fact that there is one huge flaw about the Power Slide system. If you choose to boost and Power Slide at the same time, the Power Slide will go for so much longer than you pressed it for. It's so delayed, it's so terrible. And you can't even combat this by stopping boosting right before you Power Slide or even brake checking. If you boost remotely close to the time you Power Slide, there will be a massive delay on when that Power Slide actually stops. There's no fix for this, which makes a lot of minigames really frustrating, especially this one where it's entirely focused on collecting boost peanuts and power sliding for accurate turns. 1 out of 5. The second one is called Striker, and you hit balls! This is also the minigame where some players find out the ball cam is set to hold triangle and not press triangle, which apparently some SARP vets like Kugser and Kronovi used to hold triangle all the way up until the Alpha and Beta of Rocket League. This one's boring, but it's a nice thing to keep your thumbs doing while you watch Wheel of Fortune. 2 out of 5. Next one is Power Slide, and now I realize I probably should have ranted about Power Slides in the minigame directly based on them. So you Power Slide into these rings, and if you deated them, they repeat the locations. This is boring. Final one for what I'm going to call the zippy section, Sweeper. I notice they tend to name these like you're training to be a position. Okay, you'll be Sweeper. You'll be Striker, and oh, you'll be Power Slide. These cannons stare at you like they're just pissed that you ruined their shooting practice. They charge their Super Saiyan for a few seconds to absolutely launch a ball at you.
I like to pretend it's childbirth.
Now, contrary to popular belief, there are some charming parts of this mode. There's one. What I'm talking about here is that unlike the Rocket League tutorials and custom training packs, these cannons are solid, meaning you could jump inside of them. Don't ask me why it's fun, it just kinda is. This game mode isn't that fun. The cannons are cool. 4 out of 5. Through this treacherous journey of minigames, we finally unlocked the Zippy car, and look how beautiful it is. We can even see that he's sponsored by Mercedes.
Raise your hand if you care.
On to the Renegade section. Our first minigame is Combustible, and you demo cars. Or, sorry, demolish cars. Except, is it demolished or is it wrecked? Because if you play an offline game with bots or online game with other people, it keeps track of how many wrecks you have or how many times you've been wrecked.
God, this game is so inconsistent, it hurts my head.
So you demo cars, that's it. Notice all these minigames are just do this as much as you can. What if they made a story mode instead of mindless minigames? I don't know, but this one sucks and I hate it, so 1 out of 5. Next one is multi-ball, and can you guess what we do? Hit the balls in the goal. Wow, so innovative and new. I can't say any filler for this one, it just sucks. 1 out of 5. Next one is volley, and oh, it's our good buddy Osteoporosis. Gonna pretend that pop-up doesn't exist. Moving on. Believe it or not, this one is actually fun. You're on the Utopia map, which wraps around and is stupid to play normally on, but works pretty well for this minigame. They're just floating balls, but instead of what they would usually do, like make you hit one ball, then reset the shot, then make you hit another ball at a slightly different trajectory, it's a time attack to see how many balls in the air you can hit within the time limit. You also have to mind boost management in the game. You can sometimes hit multiple balls at a time or hit one ball into another, and overall this minigame could have a nice speedrunning community one day. 5 out of 5. Final one for the Renegade section, this one's called Stalkers. So this is what happens when you commit tax evasion. I would say the men in black slowly start pursuing you in their strangely battle car shaped cars, but for some reason you are the man in black. So are you an alien? Are you the police and people are just rioting? Or are you just cool as all hell? What is the backstory of this minigame? This one's fairly fun if you don't have a strategy, but if you know what to do, it kind of takes the fun out of it. The AI obviously has a certain mindset, and since the AI were stupid in this game, it's really easy to recognize how to get around them easily. Again, we will get to the AI later. Not much to say, this one's fun but actually kind of hard, and I like to go back to it every now and then. 4 out of 5. Yay, we unlocked the Renegade, nobody cares, the hitboxes are all the same anyways. Because every car is the same hitbox, it really makes you wonder why someone would choose this junkyard of a car instead of Zippy. So apparently the backfire is based on 50s muscle cars. No. For a game where the cars are advertised to go at supersonic speeds, leap through the air, have rocket boosters, and smack into the balls the size of the car itself, do you really think Grandpa's tractor fits in this? On to the Aftershock section. First we have Unbalanced. It's a 1v2, 2 out of 5 next. Breakaway. You remember Striker from the Zippy section? This is part 2. I mean, I guess you can do this while watching Jeopardy. Moving on to Colorblind. Hit the red balls in the red goal, blue balls in the blue goal. They are really running out of ideas here. It's on the Utopia map, which I can always respect. This game is perfect for these mini games. But other than that, I can't really say anything good about this mode. It's just 2 out of 5. Final minigame of the Aftershock section, Cubic. You play with a box. This is the most boring thing I've ever done, and the AI don't make it any better. 1 out of 5. Since most of these minigames are getting really, really boring, from now on I'll only show the actually good ones.
Yeah, so there weren't any good ones.
Long story short, this game is bad. I don't want to play it anymore, so I skipped the tournaments because they're stupid and the exact same thing as a bunch of normal matches. But we still have to talk about the gameplay. And by God, is it not good. Alright, I'm going to make this short by just listing things and not trying to make any grammatical sense. Could you make the ball cam any worse? No camera settings, no control settings. Do the AI know where the ball is? Why does my car whip around so aggressively when I arrow? Why does my car have such an unrealistic amount of traction? Why is there basically no range of motion? No mid boost? Every car is the same hitbox. Hitting this ball feels like you're a bumper in a pinball machine. Jesus, the boomers, you can't control the ball. There's no control of the ball. No holding your foot for more than a millisecond. Bumping makes people fly. That was actually cool. I'll give them props. Why does refilling with the peanut slowly refill instead of immediately? All these bots have really aggressive names, and then you have Senior. I swear the gravity on this ball is broken. Sometimes it sinks like a rock, and sometimes it'll never come back down. I could literally go on for hours, but I think you get the point. The gameplay is ungodly bad. But fun can be had if you just have a playstyle as if you're playing a super janky boomer mode and you don't take anything remotely seriously, because if you think one bit logically while playing this game, it will not go in your favor.
Okay, I think you get it now. Moving on. Let's look at these maps, because I actually think they're fairly interesting. Let's start at Urban, the map where everything competitive was done. This is because it was the only map that was actually a standard shape, so it just made everything easier. Yeah, there is competitive play, like ranked in tournaments and such, so more on that later. Basically, this map's pretty basic looking. You're high in the sky with all these skyscrapers around your floating arena. There's a subway in the background as well, and Jesus Christ, those are some bright lights. While it's a nice setting, I think the star of the show is definitely these statues. Like, where can I buy one? Look how detailed that brickwork is. They even managed to make the bricks bend. And look at those detailed screws. Next up, we have Wasteland. And also the place where you can push tumbleweeds. Wow! This map is detailed from the outside. There are a lot of things to go over here, which you don't really care about, but let's do it. First off, there's a crane holding the cover of the field. How these battle cars managed to make a whole crane and make a stadium along with it is beyond me, so we'll just go along with it. All around the stadium are towers circling the top perimeter. These things holding up the cloth for whatever reason, and the half-built city. So this is how the Egyptians spent their free time. It's really interesting that they decided to halfway build a whole civilization around this map, especially since the cloth prevents you from seeing further out. There's also tiny little viewing cracks in the stadium, presumably since there's no crowd area. Overall, while this is a boring map while playing, it's somewhat saved by the design outside the arena. It's hard for me to say, but taking a second look at Wasteland makes it seem not as bad. Moving on to Utopia, this map is pretty detailed too. It takes heavy inspiration from Roman architecture, and you can imagine sitting in this pool watching some car soccer. There's a lot of greenery, a lot of statues, but the most interesting spot involves a tall center building. While this building looks normal at first, the windows are what we will focus on. If you glitch your camera outside of the map and zoom in on the windows of the tall building, you will see a very low resolution image of Wasteland along with these very few mysterious pixels.
In earlier versions of SARP, fun fact, where the windows used to show where the windows now show Wasteland, they used to show Utopia.
Galleon is a map where you're on a pirate ship, and it seems to be a fan favorite map among the many who have tried SARP. The lighting on this map is really nice, and it overall feels a lot more polished than the others. On the front right of the ship, there's a banner stating, "The Jolly Psionics." Okay. In the bottom of the ship, there's also a literal Easter egg just chilling. Again. Okay. Stadium is a really cool map, with basic idea, but really good execution. It's just a normal soccer stadium, but the feel of playing in it and looking around it really feels like there's a lot of polish in this map. From the cars in the bleachers, yes, cars, not eggs, to the space in between the field and the stands, and even a blimp up in the sky. Sure, it looks like a Skechers shoe, but it's still a blimp in the sky. The walls on the inside are layered with SARP advertising, and the crowd cheers just like a regular soccer crowd would. Probably because they use a stock sound effect for it, but anyways, let's not ignore that in the SARP canon, battle cars can not only speak full English, but also sound like humans. While there's still all this bad and unpolishedness and inconsistencies with SARP as a game, I found that it could still be pretty fun to play. While this certainly isn't a game I would consistently play like Rocket League, it is still nice to come back and pick it up every once in a while. It sort of fits into this dumb type of entertainment where you aren't invested because you are improving or getting better, but where you are playing it purely for the inconsistencies, for all the wacky physics, the stupid bounces, the stupid bumps, and it all clumps together as being surprisingly fun. A mess, but still fun. Overall, this is a stupid bad game, and I'm gonna stand by that, but sometimes we crave stupid bad games, and SARP seems to perfectly fulfill that need. There was also a website to go along with the game's release, which isn't well documented. It ran up until late April 2012, then being merged into the Psyonix forums, which later down the line redirected to the Rocket League website. The site can still be accessed to the Wayback Machine, and it's pretty interesting to look back. Something I found really interesting was that there was a section on the forum specifically made for recruitment, even though, at least from my experience, I have never seen a team mode of any kind in SARP. Looking further forward in Wayback Machine snapshots, there's also a topic for tournaments, which I have also never seen a mode for in SARP. While trying to find footage of these tournaments and or team modes, I also found an IGN review that there was a ranked mode in the game at some point. While it is confirmed by multiple different articles and many SARP veterans to have ranked team and league play, I can't seem to find any video evidence of this. Maybe it's available in an earlier version, but for now, it's kinda lost to time. All in all, this is a bad game, but the fun comes from how bad it is, and it's really interesting when you get down to the details of it. I highly suggest you subscribe. This quality level of video will be now permanent on my channel forever, not going anywhere, unless I'm the one editing and it's not Ryan, but it should be Ryan most of the time, and yeah. Also, my Twitch is up on the screen right now, and it's in the description. So, thank you for watching, and goodbye. Also, don't forget to join my Discord server.
When I was 8, yeah.